I always like to clap.
That is not how you intro.
Anyway, yeah, so we're back on the Make It Count podcast with Jennifer and Phil. And today we have Cliff Hall. So you're going to talk to us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to come and share.
No, thank you for coming, because we're just trying to reel people in.
Yeah, there's no,
And I'm a big fish in the sea.
There you go.
anybody out there?
Yes. Anybody got a story you want to tell?
Yeah.
Anyway, Cliff and I work together.
I was gonna say, how you know each other?
Yes, Cliff and I work together. We've known each other longer than that, being in the restaurant industry, and now I'm on the distribution side. But Cliff is an owner with New Orleans Fish House for 32 years.
Oh, so another business entrepreneur, huh?
Yeah, he just had a big acquisition though.
That's what I
So
hear.
now we're Fortune Fish and Gourmet. So
Okay.
now he's just an employee, living the life now, without all that stress.
We should talk about that transition.
Yeah.
We can do that. At 61, I filled out my first employer application. That was a reality moment for me, I'll tell you.
He's always like, well, the boss is calling. I'm like, dude, I don't jump when you call. He's like, yeah, I know. He's such a good employee. But anyway.
Oh, he roped you into this job.
No, I kind of talked to him in the hierarchy.
Okay, that's how it went.
But it was a good acquisition.
There you go.
Yeah. But Cliff went through what is unimaginable to me and every parent out there that's child loss.
Yeah.
So, but he is somebody that inspires me every day with how he.
You're tearing
how
up
he is.
already.
I know this is going to be a rough one because I was kind of right there. You know,
Okay.
like how he's comes through it continually, and how he gives to others. You know, yeah. So Cliff, tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so my youngest son, Josh, was injured in a high school football game in his junior year, and he broke his ankle. It was a severe break, and we had to go to, obviously, an emergency room. We had to wait till the swelling went down, and they needed to do surgery to put screws in. And he, overnight, after the first surgery, developed something called compartment syndrome. So your arteries bring your blood to your extremities, and your vessels bring them back to your heart. Well, if there's too much swelling, because the arteries are bigger, it's able to get the blood in. But the vessels are smaller, the swelling constricts it, it can't go anywhere. So his foot began to swell like a balloon, and he was in excruciating pain. So they determined to do emergency surgery, and they went along the lower part of his foot where they could measure the greatest, pressure, and they put about a 5-inch slit into his foot and left it open so that they would manage the bleeding, but it would relieve the pressure so that they wouldn't have to amputate his foot. Next day, the pressure started building on the compartments in the top of his foot. Called us in, have to do emergency surgery. The bottom's working, the top is too much. Had to sign a release again, that if anything were to happen, I was releasing them, from anything that would occur from the surgery. So they had to put him under again. They go back and they put 2 slits on the top of his foot. So, and then they don't close these incisions up. They leave them open. So now, at the end of the 3rd day, he's got 2 slits on the top of his foot, 1 slit on the side of his foot, along with the 5-inch scar from the repair and the pins and the screws. On the 4th day, fortunately, the pressure had gone back down to a manageable, reasonable amount, and so then they had to go back in and clean up and suture and close. So it was a very, very hard 4 days, obviously, not knowing how this was going to turn out, because at every point in turn, the doctor said, if we don't get this under control, we'll have to amputate his foot. Telling somebody that's, that's 17 years old that you're going to lose your foot, and that's not a good conversation.
He's obviously active, athlete.
Oh yeah, very active. So anyway, we went through the fourth surgery. The pressure went down, and we started his therapy and recovery. And we can get into how much is too much drugs, but he was given hard narcotics the whole time that he was getting up to having surgery. During surgery, they couldn't get the pain under control, even in recovery, so they would continue to give him really strong medications. And then he ended up having, after he got home for recovery, 3 months later had to have another surgery to remove a screw, and that was then back on, opiates, and so ended up being over a 7-month period of time. He had 5 surgeries, and he was given opioids the whole time.
Jeez.
So now our background as a family, church people, not to our knowledge, anybody in our home, using or experimental drugs. So we didn't have a lot of background on what to look for or what to think. And this was not this was before opioids, was out as, you just hard to recover from.
So this was like 10 or 11 years ago, right?
Yes, yes. So
Are you married?
Am I married?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or were you married at the
Yeah,
time?
oh yeah. So my wife and I, Julie, been married for 43 years. We have 4 children. We still consider Josh alive in our hearts. So, so we have 3 boys and a girl. So Josh was our youngest, the baby of the family. So everybody, always looks after the baby, right? So
I'm the baby.
there you go. We're all into that. And so, but that continuous, using of drugs, and we even kept the drugs in our closet under lock and key.
So you thought you were doing all the right things.
Just felt like going to see the doctor, no indication of anything that would make us feel at that point in time like there was a situational problem. But as a lot of parents don't know, or even husbands and wives, now that we're further down the road, we've heard of many professional people that have gotten hooked on opioids for physical injuries, basketball, whatever, aren't you neat? You guys are, have
Yeah.
a gym.
Mhm.
And so, hopefully today, they're not given out as easily as they once were, but you could get them by just asking.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
they have that old Netflix series.
I think they are still giving out.
I think they are.
and they
too.
could, I don't know, I'm not in a position to want them or need them or use them.
But it's very dangerous. I mean, you don't realize you can get addicted
Yes,
real quick.
well, what we learned through this whole process is that your brain produces serotonin and dopamine. And the dopamine is the part of the brain, what it produces, a chemical, makes us feel good. So if somebody tells a joke like Phil, and I'm going to laugh at it, there's a chemical reaction in my body and my brain that releases this dopamine, and there's receptors there that take this in, and then all of a sudden feels funny. And now
Wait, it's
No.
not all of a sudden.
no, listen.
Feels funny.
No, scientifically proven. It's not that you're funny.
Yeah, scientifically proven. Feels funny.
But the
Y'all heard
brain,
it here first.
the brain releases the dopamine, which makes me think you're funny. But anyway, we know you're funny.
I like this guy.
Yeah.
We know you're
I would like more often. But
But he don't play
Phil's
football
job-
because he couldn't get the helmet on his head. That's
Oh
But
my
that's
God.
okay. We all no, I love him to death.
I think he just called me Peyton Manning.
There you go.
Oh my.
But so anyway, we've learned a lot through this whole process, and so we didn't really know. We had times on and off where we knew that Josh may be struggling, but then it really, by the year 2015, got bad, and then we began to seek outside help for treatments. And we went through multiple treatment programs.
So real quick, what for anybody listening out there, when you say it got bad, like, can you?
Well,
We should have asked you if there was anything off limits before we
Yeah.
started the
Yeah.
podcast.
Well, here's what I got to be careful of. My son was an amazing person.
Yeah.
And addiction changes that person into somebody they don't want to be. Before I experienced this, I was guilty myself of just thinking, well, stupid, don't take the drug. You don't want the consequence, don't take it. Until I lived with someone who struggled. Then I realized that it wasn't just a decision. It's not that easy. It's a chemical imbalance, and it's such a strong pull on a person who, especially like my son was, who loved to tell the jokes.
Yeah.
Could not stand to see somebody sitting in a room alone. After his death, I had a kid come to me and say, "You'll never know how much your son meant to me. I didn't even know this person. He's eating dinner at Longhorn Steakhouse in Covington with two friends. I'm sitting at the end of the bar eating by myself, just going through a divorce, feeling like a piece of crap." And this kid walks up to me and says, "Hey, you sit over by yourself? Why are you by yourself?" "You know, man, I don't have anybody." He goes, "Come sit with us." Because your son didn't even know me. From that point in time on, we were friends. Because he did not want to see me sit by myself and look lonely. So he brought me in. And so when you have that type of personality, and then you try to get off the drugs, what happens is that your body stops producing natural serotonin and dopamine because it's getting it through the opioid. It's a synthetic dopamine. So you're getting this feeling of feeling good, of feeling normal to some people, but it's medically induced because your body has stopped producing. So that's why I've learned or feel like that in certain rehab situations, people try to do their best. And they usually go away for 30 days, and they're usually great at the end of 30 days. The problem is the body hasn't begun to restore producing serotonin and dopamine naturally. So then you have a person who wants to laugh, who looks out and see you and I look out and see a beautiful blue sky today, green trees, it's, the beauty of color. They don't even see color. It doesn't even register to them at some point in time because they basically go numb and they don't have this chemical producing in their brain for them to have those feelings. So where we would find ourselves with him at times is that he would do extremely well, always the star student, come back, fight, struggle. We could tell he was struggling, and then just at some point in time break down and have a relapse situation. And as now I know, that's because he was trying to recover and live life without dopamine and serotonin being released.
Not only that, but as a high schooler, was he still in high school during
At
this
this
time?
point in time, he wasn't.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I mean, he was still,
Oh, he's trying to go to
Still young.
college.
you're in that same, like,
Trying to
not
go to
know
20s.
what life is,
Oh, absolutely.
trying to figure those things out.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's
So
all.
we talked. My wife and I talked multiple times. Supposedly the male brain develops fully about 25 or 26, and we'd be like, if we can just get him there, if we can just get him there, maybe he'll be able to overcome. And but when you get caught in the cycle, relapse, and you feel like dirt, and you don't want to hurt anybody, and you know that it's going to hurt the people you love, then you're down on yourself even worse, and it's a terrible life to live. And so, we would continue to try to get him help. He would recover. He would come back. He would do well, and then 2 or 3 months later, he would be struggling too bad. And in a person's mind, when they reach that point of desperation, I mean, it'd be almost like you were starving for water.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's one glass of water sitting on the shelf right there, and you're thinking, if I can just drink that one glass of water, then I'm going to be okay, and I can go forward being okay. I'll find some more water later. The problem with that is that one glass of water is an opiate. And it does make them feel good, and it does release the dopamine, and it does bring them feeling back into their life. problem is that it becomes habitual again and they can never, not do it. And so it's, I've learned a lot, and I don't judge anybody. I used to, like I said, before I'd be like, just quit. If you don't like the circumstances you're living in, stop
Change
taking
the
it.
circumstance.
Change it, just stop. But it's bigger than that. I'm not saying people can't, because man, I sell it when somebody, I have plenty of his friends that I stay in touch with to try to encourage them, because I know that he meant a lot to them in rehab situations, California to Florida. And I still stay in touch with these young men because I want them to succeed, and they're succeeding. Actually, it doesn't make me sad.
Yeah.
It makes me very happy.
Yeah.
Because I know the impact that their family would feel if they didn't.
Right.
And there are those that don't, and I've had to live through that as well. Some of his friends not, and me getting that phone call.
Yeah.
And then I'm getting a call from a parent. And then,
And then do you look like when you walk through that, it's like walking through it all over again a little bit?
it is, but I will say that, I have a foundation of faith in God, which I am not ashamed to say that I believe that foundation is what has helped my wife and I get through the healing process to where we are at this point in time. We're not perfectly whole, nor will we ever be here on this earth. So there's no expectation of waking up one day and being happy Josh is dead. There is an expectation that I can wake up. If I do wake up, if God allows me, that there is a purpose for my day, and I look at it as a purpose from the pain that I've lived through. So if I'm going to be in pain, something good's going to come out of my pain.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not the type of person where I can just go sit on the sofa and be in pain. I'm going to fight to be out of that, because I don't believe God wants me to live in that. I believe that there is healing and there's ways to have life that can still be enjoyable and that can still help other people, like what Phil uses his story to do. And so I will take my last breath with that mentality of trying to help others along the way. And it may be a different story. It could be alcohol, it could be, recovering from an illness like cancer. The deal is when you're staring death like that, the reality of death that close to you, it's not necessarily how it got there or what caused it. It will change a person. And
Yeah, it's perspective.
perspective. You do.
It humbled me.
Yeah, it's humbling.
big time.
Very much.
Like if you knew me before,
Yeah.
you don't know me.
I can just tell you now, though, from your spirit and your passion, you're a fixer. There's a problem, you're gonna find a solution, right? Well, as men, we're wired that way technically, but that was the way I am too. Okay, we got 10 problems. Give me about 10 minutes. I'll have 10 solutions for you.
Exactly.
Now they may not all be perfect, but at least we got something we're going to go make an attempt to solve this problem, right? So when I reached a situation where I couldn't fix it, it was very humbling.
Very.
You
So
know?
talk to us a little bit about you got him into rehab. He kept relapsing, and then what happened?
Well, once it progressively got worse, and so once we reached 2016, he put himself into a place, and he did really well in California, and he was there for Christmas Day. My wife and I flew out to be with him. We didn't want him to be alone for Christmas Day, and he stayed there for about 4 months in sober living, and had done what we thought was well. And then we found out that he had relapsed there, so he came home, and we tried to help him get a job as this happens over and over, and he did, and but he just wasn't able, because of the addiction, to stay committed to something like a job, and so he went back into rehab, and in 2017. 3 different times, and then in 2018, he went back again, And we thought that he came out, was doing so well again, and we just continue. Our whole family would love him, and and try to work with him. And what's incredible is that he died April the 7th, 2018. But the 10 previous days to his passing were like the best 10 days my family had with him in years. It was a gift from God, I believe. I think God, whether he wanted him to die, I don't believe that's what he wanted, but that was what happened, right? And but I think God loved us enough to give him the best of Josh in the last 10 days he lived. And so I'm very grateful for that, So, but yeah, he was doing well, and we could tell on Friday that he was struggling, and he disappeared for a few hours. My daughter found him on the lakefront in Enfield, brought him home. They pulled the mattress up. She slept next to him on the floor, and sometime around between 5 and 5:30 a.m., he accidentally overdosed. And my daughter found him, tried to revive him, and paramedics came, and they worked on him for around 45 minutes. And while we waited in the next room, they wouldn't allow us to be in there. So it was horrible hearing all the conversation of trying to save him, and us holding on to hope that, when the head paramedic came out, it would be good news. They're putting him on stretcher, bringing him to the hospital. But after 45 minutes and the machine turned off, I knew. As soon as I heard the machine turn off, I knew we lost him. And the head paramedic came out, grabbed my wife, and just held him. So since that day, we've had to try to learn to live with that loss. And it never escapes your mind. I still, 4.5 years later, wake up every morning, I look in the mirror, and I realize that I woke up and that Josh will not. And then I have to take that mindset and pray for God to give me the ability to compartmentalize my grief. It was a huge part of me getting back into work and functioning. And I couldn't think. All I could think about was everything we'd been through and losing him and seeing him on the floor, dead, and knowing that 2 strangers were going to take him away when I tried to protect him his whole life. 2 people I didn't know. We put him in a bag in his most vulnerable condition, and I couldn't do anything about it. So just the impact of that, it was, I couldn't even think straight, right? So, but again, I have a very strong faith in God that, okay, if you've allowed me to get to this place, you will help me walk through this. Even if it's painful, and it will be, I'm going to get through this. And so at one point in time, I said, God, can you help me to compartmentalize my grief? Because I can't think about it 24/7, but I can't function. And I know that's not what you want from me. And I know that's not what Josh wants from me. And that's not what my family needs from me. Because now I got 3 kids and a wife who were suffering too. I can't abandon them, right? So, I'm the leader of the family. And I kid you not, I can't tell you what point in time during the day it was, but I had a peace that came over me, and from that point in time on, I grieve him in the morning, and I grieve him at night. And do I miss him during the day? I do, but I'm able to function. I'm able to take responsibility and continue on with life, because I know that's the right thing, and I know that's what God wants me to do, and that's what my family needs me to do. And that's what my co-workers, Phil's dependent on me, I'm dependent on Phil. I can't do everything on my own. He can't do all of his responsibilities on his own and be successful without my help and my support. So, I strive every day to take the pain of what we've been through and have purpose for my pain. I've shared this with Phil before. As I was, helping other people that have gone through this, to get more clarity about how I would have a plan to help other people. And so this came to me, and
All right, I was going to ask this question.
go ahead and ask.
So you came into my office one morning.
Oh, I had to share it with him.
And you shared it with me, and I wrote it on my whiteboard, and it's still there. Like, how you are supposed to do this? Like, what you felt?
Yeah, and I knew I had to share it with him. He was the first person I shared it with, because he's had his own journey to go through, and he's had to
And that's
find-
why I wrote it down. Because I'm like,
He
this is
mentally, no matter, the doctor can say you're cancer free all you want, but there's always that little voice in the mind of negativity. Well, that's for today, right? So he could ball up in a ball on the sofa and say, I've been dealt a crappy bunch of cards in life. Or he can do what he's done and say, you know what, I'm gonna take responsibility for my own health
Yeah.
the best I can, and I'm gonna become a dang triathlon runner and be sexy in those shorts, making it count when he's
I'm
done.
gonna start a podcast with some
That's what-
random girl.
But so when I was looking for my own way to push forward,
Mhm.
almost as clear as a bell came to me. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to listen more, because if we listen to people, then they have more belief in us that we really care, and they're more willing to open up the deeper parts of their heart to us. I don't think that we can really help people who need help unless they open up to us. It's one ear and out the other. If they open up, if they trust us, then we have a chance to help them. And part of trusting us is shutting up your mouth and listening. My wife tells me that all the time.
Amen. I think that's the three of us in here.
I struggle with that.
got quiet.
Hi. My name's Jennifer.
Yeah,
Listen.
yeah. But it is true. So if we listen, we're able to impact people because they know we care. Then we can encourage others. I believe we can encourage each other with words. Like, we'll encourage each other with things, I'm sure you do it all day long, trying to encourage the people that you're working with. And so words are how we encourage. Then I believe the most important is we inspire. And we inspire by how we live. It's not our words, it's how we live. Do we walk the walk? Because I can talk the talk. A lot of people can talk the talk, but do we walk the walk? So if we can pull those three things off when we're trying to live my life that way, and thinking of others, and using our story to help others, then you know what? It's a good day, man.
Yeah.
It's a good day.
Talk to me a little bit about, because for me, I know owning my business, we lost Grayson right when our business turned a year. So fragile, like just trying to get over that 1 year hump of a business, lost my son. And I knew that all I could focus on was getting back to work, because like that is where I could focus my energy without feeling the grief, kind of like you, right?
Yeah.
And there were many times where the members carried me. Like I would cry in the middle of like 10 more push-ups. And they're like, it's okay, let it out.
Yeah.
Like, because when you're coach, a lot of emotions come up.
Sure.
So talk to me a little bit about getting back into work. And like, because for maybe some people out there, you and I, we owned our business, so it was kind of a necessity to get back.
Right.
But for other people, they might just work, like Phil, he just works there. So he needs to, like, how hard was that, showing up that first day out?
Emotionally, it was very hard. Now, I will say that if you work with great people who are caring, and that the beauty of my life is the same foundation that carried me through the tragedy of losing Josh was the way I've lived my whole life, right? So I had, I had 20 7.5 years, not being perfect, but caring about people and honoring them and trying to help them along the way, right? So the seed I planted in a lot of people came back to me.
Oh,
So-
that's good.
Yeah, I mean, and that's absolutely the truth.
Yeah.
Well, I learned a long time ago, I don't care how much you believe in God, if you got some dirt in the backyard and you go bring some orange seeds out there and you put them in the ground and you fertilize them and you water them every day and you get on your hands and knees and say, Lord, I want apples. I want apples. I want apples. Lord, give me apples. You can have a lot of faith, but you're getting oranges because that's a seed you put in.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's how life works.
So
you know?
I did a mindset chat on Tuesday nights and thought nothing of it. We started as a group of women. We get together, we chat, blah, 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 whatever. And I didn't realize how much that was preparing me for the loss of Grayson.
Yeah.
It was very one of those, oh, that wasn't for anybody else, even though I was pouring into everybody else.
Right.
Wow, that was really for me, you know.
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of mindset training right before everything happened, and I believe your mind is very powerful, kind of a lot of things you talked about.
Yeah.
And you have to water that every single day, you know.
Absolutely.
But I like when you say there's a purpose in your pain,
Yes.
and that if God woke you up this morning, I needed to hear that today. I'm not gonna get emotional on you, but I definitely look, I'm crying.
Yeah, I thought you were.
I needed to hear that today because there is, and if God woke you up this morning, you got to go impact people's lives.
Absolutely.
There's something out there for
Somebody's not.
you. Yeah.
I can tell you, not just somebody. A lot of somebodies are not waking up.
Yeah.
And so if we have life, and none of us want to live sad and unfulfilled lives, right? So it's how we kind of choose to get to the end result of being a happy, fulfilled life, right? And some people try to do it with cars and trucks and boats and things of that nature. But everyone I have ever known in my 61 and a half years of life, that what they had in their garage meant how happy they were, it never lasted.
Yeah.
Ever. So my dad was a minister. And one day we were at the funeral of somebody that we both cared about tremendously. And the guy was very wealthy. And so my dad made a point to tell me, we were outside the funeral home, and he's like, see anything behind that hearse? No, sir. That's right. He ain't bringing it with you. This guy was a millionaire. It ain't his casket, and there's no U-Haul behind the hearse. Can't take it with him. So, that was for me as a young person, that had an impact on me.
Yeah.
Right? So if we want to be fulfilled and have happiness, which I can't believe we don't want to, right, then what are the meaningful things that we can do to bring that to us? Well, I know for me, when I'm helping others, and I see them make a step in the right direction, or I see a smile on their face when they were really feeling down, it just pushes me forward one more row, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, where's the next person I can help? And this was not that long ago. Molly actually called me and said, I got a guy I'd like for you to talk to. And I can't remember, I think it was a Cat's Meow.
Yeah, it's Cat's Meow, the bartender.
The bartender.
But there was a shooting on Bourbon Street, and a ricochet bullet
Yes.
killed this bartender randomly.
Behind two walls.
Yeah,
Hits him directly in the heart and kills
within
him.
the last year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So
I'm
anyway.
honestly living in Fairfax because everybody's shaking their head now on
Yeah,
this story.
And this guy was very much loved. This guy was super intelligent. So I met Molly got a call from his dad, and which is brokenhearted, from Atlanta, a pilot, so Delta. So he got it all. He's got all the bells and whistles he wants, but he is crushed, right? And she says, "Would you speak to him?" I said, "Absolutely. Give me his number." So I had his number, and I was sitting at home. I was in my bed, and I was feeling like a hunk of doo-doo. And I was like, you know what, man, I don't. This is a hard life, and it sucks. And I was coming up with all the negative thoughts, right? And then I'm like, I'm calling this man right now. Like, I need to speak to him. I get on the phone. His wife answers his phone. I said, listen, this is who I am. Could I please speak to your husband? And he got on the phone and I said, sir, I got your number from a friend, and I'd like to speak to you. I hear your son was killed. And that was it. You know, he started talking to me, and of course, when you've shared that same type of tragedy, you know, people will open up more, right? So I listened to him talk about how it happened, how great his son was, and the guy was incredible, right? And then I was able to then share with him my story and tell him there's hope, and I believe he's going to make it, you know, and that there's purpose in his pain, to trust the process, but don't give up. Don't give up. And
I like how when you needed it, you got uncomfortable and picked up that phone.
And so from that, I'm looking at Facebook, same night, and I see where a friend posted something, and he texted me before this, and I'm on the phone with this other gentleman, and he texts me, I need to speak to you, and this is a chef, right? And Phil and I get texts from chefs all the time, and it's okay, but this was late at night, like 9 o'clock, right? And so I was like, I'm not going to respond. I'll just call him tomorrow. You know, I'm really not into talking about, you know, seafood tonight. I see something on Facebook where I knew something must have happened, and then he calls me, and I picked up right away. I said, hey, man, are you okay? He goes, my son committed suicide. I'm like, wow. I said, let's go. Let's start talking. And he's like, I don't know anybody else to talk to. I said, well, you got one person right here, and I'm all ears. And so we talked for about an hour, and then at the end of the thing, he goes, "Thank you. I think I can make tomorrow now." And so, and then amazingly enough, not 2 days later, another friend of mine in New Orleans texted me, I lost my daughter. And we had talked because he feared this. So that's another situation that you try to help people when they have a living person in the home that's struggling with addiction, and it is always in their mind. Please don't let that phone ring.
Yeah.
You know, if it past 10 o'clock, please don't. And I'll tell you, we were traumatized, my wife and I. If the phone rang at 11 o'clock at night for about 3 years during the hard part, it was devastating to hear that. I mean, PTSD, it's a real thing.
It is.
It's a real thing. Your body can only take so much, and your body will react in certain ways, and your nervous system, PTSD is real. It ain't fake. So, but there's hope for that too.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a process of healing. But so I had, from going from a very low of sitting on the sofa feeling sorry for myself to 3 hours of helping 2 other people, and then a day later helping another friend.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's almost like, you know, when you experience something, just even Phil, in his situation, I got a friend, I'm like, you got to talk to him, right? So
Yeah.
people bring you
Yeah, they do.
people.
They did.
Hey,
Oh, it happens.
We've all been through it.
I ain't got that answer, right?
Yeah.
I can tell you what I think will help you, but I got somebody who's lived it
Right.
who can really help you.
What about the people who aren't ready to hear? That's hard.
It's very
Because
hard.
I've had a lot of people that friends reach out and they're like, hey, will you talk to this person? And I'll reach out and they'll just ghost me.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I'm right here. I know what you're doing. But then, like, when you were in it, you didn't want to talk to nobody.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't want to talk about it. Like, I'm very open about my cancer journey. You know, it's just cancer, you know. But a lot of people don't want to talk about it.
Well, you know, you're vulnerable,
Mhm.
you're in pain. You could possibly be physically in pain.
Yeah.
And so, we all know that if we start talking, we open up, and then it's almost like you expose even more. It's like a
Well, it also becomes real.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
When you
Well,
start-
exactly. It's reality.
when you
can't
start
cover
talking
it up.
about it.
It
No,
wasn't a
you
dream. I'm talking about this. And it's like a scab. If you get something that's healed up over, if you dig down deep enough under that scab, there may be some things that you got to deal with, right?
Yeah.
And so nobody really wants to go deeper and feel more pain, right? All you can do is, like I said before, is just plant the seed.
Yeah.
And just, I'm here for you. I know what you're feeling. I understand it's hard to wake up. I understand it's hard to take a bath. I understand that putting clothes on and unlocking the door and walking outside, for some people, they're jumping up and down to do it. But for you, I understand that's the last thing you want to do right now is walk out into this world.
Yeah.
And so, that's, again, if you get the opportunity, we go back to listen, encourage and inspire.
Yeah.
So, but not all people are ready, and not all fruit's ready to be harvested, right?
Yeah.
So you just continue to plant the seed that I'm here for you, and these are some things that helped me, and if you need to talk, I'm available.
The other thing I struggled with was like the world went on without you.
Oh,
That was really hard.
it's tough for my wife,
That was really hard for me.
Yeah.
Because I remember, like, we stayed a couple days in the hospital, and then when we walked out, like, because we were in our, like, little room, right, when everything happened, and then we walk out, and, like, people are just, like, going about their day, and you're like,
Yeah.
man,
Wait,
that
what
was,
about me?
yeah, like, what, you don't realize that we just went there,
Yeah.
Or then, like, we came back here, and we were training somebody, and they're like, oh, the gardener didn't show up.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck you, who cares about your gardener?
Right.
Like,
So what?
Is that your biggest problem today? Oh, I'm sorry.
Man, for me, like that moment was like 3 months after my lung surgery, and I'm in Colorado with my oldest, and I've always prided myself on like doing whatever the boys do. Like I didn't mature yet. I haven't matured yet. I sailed past 25, still immature, and do all the things. If they're going to climb a tree, I'm gonna climb a tree. They're going to race, I'm going to race. It doesn't matter. Well, we were hiking, and he takes off up this ridge, and I go to do it, and I'm like, I can't. Like, I couldn't breathe. And I just sat there on the bench, and he's gone, and he comes back. He's like, hey, are you all right? Because he's my dad. He's running after me, too, We're going to go frolic in the trails. And he's like, you all right? I was like, no, I don't think so. And at that moment, I realized, like, I might never be able to do this shit again. Like, oh, man. And I am running an ultra marathon on Saturday, so I'm okay. But it was that wait, I can't do that.
Well, being 8,000 feet above sea level
Yes.
did not help. We didn't
Correct.
have any
It
restricted
didn't,
lung
but I
capacity.
had that,
So there's
I had
math
that
involved.
feeling
though.
of
I love how
them
Cliff,
going on.
yeah, Cliff, I love how Cliff, I don't have to break apart, gives us, the statistics and the science behind it. I like that.
Well, it's true.
Well, I know, but I don't
You're
think
not going to
that.
outbeat the math sometimes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so what inspires me about Cliff is that he does still live through, and he every day will live through losing Josh. But he, is always shining a light for somebody else.
Yeah.
Always.
Again, it's really what's makes my life's purpose fulfilled. What helps make me fulfilled is to help others.
So let me ask you this. You're an entrepreneur, you own your own business, selling that business today with the loss of a son versus selling that business if your son's still here. You get where I'm going with this?
Oh yeah.
Talk to me about that.
So of my children, Josh was the one that wanted to be at New Orleans Fish House. And he worked there for a period of time, until he struggled. He loved it. I got so many pictures of him holding fish, and the smile on his face is the biggest smile he can have. And we would talk at night, and he would dream about it. I want to work by you, Dad. And so, so losing him might have helped me let go easier than had I not lost him, because I wanted him to be a part of it. That's what he wanted, right? So, but I will say on the other side of that is that now that I'm approaching 62, I want less stress in my life, and I mean, I've had this loss. I still want to be used to help others, but, to be concerned about a business, not knowing what hill we got to climb next, right? So COVID almost took us out. None of us knew what not to do with that. And
Every hurricane.
A hurricane.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Every hurricane almost takes us out.
Fish has a very short shelf life compared to any other food products. There's nothing that short life, and it's expensive. And so you lose 3 or 4 days of business, and you're throwing away quite a bit of inventory because you can't send it out.
Right.
I mean, you're not going to tarnish your reputation by doing that. So we've lost a lot of money over the years because of hurricanes, and of course COVID shut down the restaurant industry in one night, and we're buying 7 days in advance ahead. So we had trucks showing up the day after it shut down, the next day after it shut down, and the next day after it shut down, right? Because that product had been ordered already. And so, and it was unsellable because there was no places open, right? So, it was a tough journey, but I do believe that in the timing of my life, not having any children that would have worked in the company, that it just made perfect sense, for me to be a part of selling the company. And other partners, they had to agree to it, and we were all, had similar circumstances, not losing a child, but just reasons for saying, hey, listen, this is a bigger company. We have employees that's been here. Well, the company's been open for 32 years. We had people that worked for us for 30 years, right?
Yeah.
So, what's it going to look like in 10 years when we're 70, right? Are we going to have the energy and the focus and the drive to keep fighting? Well, that was going to be no.
Right.
Might have had to want to, but we wouldn't have the physical ability. So what happens to these incredible people that have built this organization if we just shut it down?
Yeah.
They've devoted their life to us. So by allowing this other company to come in, it opened up lots of opportunity for every employee. Phil's been Chicago, Minnesota. I've been in Houston already and in Alabama at their facilities, and so it's a real growth opportunity for our employees, no matter how long they've been with us, to know that now that, hey, I've got some upward mobility that I might not have had before, right? You're not going to bump the owner out of his chair.
Right.
So
I tried.
then he tried.
What I love about you is that you are always thinking of other people.
Now
And I only, this is the first time we're talking, and I get that from you. You are always thinking about how can that help them, and then me.
I believe that whatever God allows us to do, that we then become a steward of that, right? And so whether it's our house, our car, but especially people, if those people are in an organization that I have ownership in, then that's my responsibility to steward that person for them to be the best they can be, right? And I'm not perfect, I fail at that, but that's my heart.
Yeah.
My heart is that, okay, I realize this is a blessing, I'm grateful for it, but I also know that these people that have helped this organization get to where it is a lot of hard work, dedication, commitment, loyalty, doing things we ask them to do, and so I'm responsible for them, mentally, physically, and financially, right? So I take that very serious. So if you look at it,
That's the stress.
that
Yeah.
that is care about us, right? So
My God. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the stress of
You're bringing all these retired entrepreneurs on here,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like,
Yeah, you're like,
I'm
what's he-
tired.
What's he trying to say?
I got to work.
going on here? So talk to us about the next 10 years. What does the next 10 years look like for you and your family and still making it count every single day?
Well, it's just taking every day and being willing to being open to what crosses your path, right? I mean, like some things I can plan for, but most of it I cannot, right? So how am I going to react to it? It's again, like I said before, the world I'm in, how am I going to impact that world the best I can? I can give money, in which I have done, and I've been on the advisory board for Giving Hope Foundation, Troy and Tracy Duhan's foundation, which is an amazing foundation, and putting orphanages in other countries. Well, I got to go to Gambia, Africa, where an orphanage was put in, and got to visit there, and I was able to have some impact on those kids by going that day and maybe by giving, but I'm not in touch with those kids every day, right? So we can have impact worldwide on a global, physical globe, but really we're going to have the most impact is in our world. Whether if I'm shopping at Rouse's East Approach, and that's where I'm going to be shopping 80% of the time, then you're going to end up recognizing some people in there, right? So,
Yeah.
Or filling up at the gas station, or filling our out, seeing people all the time. Just being aware, knowing them, learning their story, listening to them, and then if the opportunity arises, you want to try to help them to be better and overcome if there's something they're struggling with. And so, if you look for those opportunities, they'll come across your way, right?
But you focus on groups.
Yeah, so that's I plan to continue to heal. I can plan to continue for my family to heal, because Josh had two brothers and a sister that are devastated and still are devastated. And so, and I have a wife that, could not have loved a child any more than she loved Josh. And so, my life will continue to be to try to be the best dad and the best husband I can be, and then to be the best friend I can be as I transition from workplace to just living life. And I just want to be the best friend I can be.
Awesome, Phil. You're not Phil. You're Cliff. And I'm really struggling today.
People actually call me Cliff a lot, probably call him Phil a lot, because we work so much together.
Yeah, we're together.
Okay, I mean, that's
It's okay.
exactly what I just said.
Yeah, that's exactly.
It's okay.
Cliff, you've inspired me today so much. I really appreciate you coming on. Your story is amazing. How you're making it count, though, every single day is. Phil's been talking about it since we started this podcast.
When we
He's like-
said this is what we're going to do, this
He's
is
like,
podcast
Cliff's
is
got to be
about
on it.
Cliff needs to be on.
Cliff's going to be on it.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you, thinking enough of me to allow me to share my story, and I believe anybody listening to it, maybe there'll be a nugget or two that we've shared today that they can take and apply to their life, and they'll be better for it.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go out and make it count.